Oh, yeah. The NFL draft and rookies. Hell yeah.
Podcast off the rails already.
But there is not a chance in hell Justin Fields is finishing in the top 10.
You know what, Mikey? Shut it.
He wants
Why
it.
not?
You don't want the smoke.
He's Calvin Johnson. He's Calvin
Oh,
Johnson.
good.
Oh,
God.
my
Yes,
God.
yes, yes, and yes.
What are we going to do with you?
It just, it adds a little extra flavor to the podcast. I don't know.
I think you're disrespecting David Njoku.
Thank God
Yeah.
for Joe Flacco. That's all I can say. I'll help the owners. Don't draft Kadarius Toney.
I have to give the people what they want. I mean, come on. I'm going to milk it. I'm going to milk it for all it's worth.
I'll give you something to milk.
Let's rock and roll.
All right, MHA owners, it's that time. The MHA podcast, the Thanksgiving edition, here this week. And we're going to look back on week 12. Eric Lansing, Mikey Renault, and Todd Diamond. Gentlemen, happy Thanksgiving. Tomorrow's a big day. We're recording this on a Wednesday night. How's everyone doing tonight? All right. Sounds like everybody's doing great.
Yeah.
Way to go, guys. You guys are awake. I know it's a little
Oh, that
late.
was quick.
Yeah, that was great. I'm ready for Thanksgiving. Ready for some, turkeys, mashed potatoes, sweet potatoes. Put some cranberries on top of it. I'm ready to go. Gobble gobble.
Gobble, gobble, gobble.
Todd, do you wear a turkey suit to your Thanksgiving dinner?
Ooh, I bet you.
You know, I well, maybe not the full, but wear a hat with a giant turkey on it, and it's great. It's great. And gobble. Just say gobble gobble the whole time. It's fantastic.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Gentlemen, I always ask every year, what do you guys like the most about it? But let me ask, what is the most overrated Thanksgiving dish, in your opinion, Mikey?
Overrated. Let's see. I'm gonna go with sweet potatoes.
Oh
Ooh.
man.
Oh,
That's good stuff.
Mikey, no, sweet potatoes are awesome. I say stuffing.
I kind of agree with that. If it's good stuffing, it's good. If it's bad, then it's bad.
It's bad. It smells bad.
You know what I'm going to say, Mikey.
Oh, I know you're gonna say mashed potatoes.
That is correct. Ding,
Oh.
ding, ding. Oh, 100%. Like, it's fine. Just that's a Mikey correct. I'm a little late on that. But, I mean, it's fine.
I won MHA trivia.
Oh, no, my
It is.
friend. We have some good MHA trivia coming up. But, yeah, I don't reach for that.
Okay.
I don't reach for mashed potatoes. Like, if it's put in my plate, I'm going to eat it because I'm a human being and someone was nice enough to make it for me. But if I just get to pick up the litter, I am not going to be rolling with that one. Okay, what's happening this week on the MHA podcast? Well, we're going to look back on week 12. We had a team clinch a playoff spot, and we had a team, unfortunately, eliminated from playoff contention, MHA trivia, recapping this past week, and, of course, what's coming up. And, Mikey, you want to explain to the audience who clinched and who fell out of the playoff race here this past weekend?
Yeah, let's go with the bad. We'll go bad news, good news that way.
All right.
So, unfortunately for Pollen and his Gonzo Cats, he's officially been eliminated from playoff contention. He was a champion 2 years ago, and it's kind of fallen on rough times. Had the first pick in the draft last year, and now he's the second one to be eliminated. That's what a Christian McCaffrey injury will do to you.
Yeah, there's a few owners that have had to deal with Christian McCaffrey injuries, kind of derailing their season. Fortunately for Todd last year, he was pretty healthy and led him to a big-time championship. Unfortunately for Pollen, a lot of things didn't go well. I know he was playing Quentin Johnson this past week, the new Calvin Johnson, and had 0 points. 0 points. But, I mean, at this point of the season, you're trying anything. Didn't work out for Pollen this year. Who else clinched, Miguel?
Wow, he took the Todd strategy, trying something new. Hey, surprise, surprise. I'm in. I clinched.
You're in. Oh, man. Let this get up for Miguel. Well done, sir. Great season. Great players. Continues to get it done. What can we say about Mikey that hasn't already been said by himself?
Oh, you're going to say more when you get to the recap.
Actually, I want to kind of lead things off here with the boy Saquon Barkley. Is he the MVP of the league, of the MHA world?
If he's not, he's got to be a close second. And I mean, he's been, oh my goodness, incredible. Just incredible.
Incredible. Let's talk about that just real quick. And we all were together. Was this the first time we were all together this year watching football? I've been busy, quite busy this year. But to be able to sit there and watch what Saquon Barkley did, 43.85 points. He ran 26 times for 255 yards, 2 TDs, 4 receptions, 47 yards. That is quite bananas. He's actually now tied for 10th all time in terms of yards from scrimmage. And you know what that means, right, fellas?
MHA trivia time.
You're effing right.
Yeah.
Time to play the game. Time to play the game.
All right. Time to go back and look at some of the other folks that are in the all-time top leaders in terms of yards from scrimmage. So I'm going to leave this open with the top 25, and whoever gets the 4 points first wins. And of course, we always let Todd go first, and you can't say Saquon Barkley. I'm sorry,
Okay.
Can't do it. So yards from scrimmage, let's go Todd first.
So all time. Let's go with
All time.
LaDainian Tomlinson.
LaDainian Tomlinson, was he in the top 25 of this list? Incorrect. I'm so sorry. I'm going past 25 to see if he ended up somewhere. 37th. He had 271 total yards from scrimmage against the Denver Broncos on December 1st, 2002. Not in the top 25, though. Up to you, Miguel.
All right. I'm gonna
Some
try
fun
and sound,
names on here.
I'm gonna try and sound like a genius here, but I remember hearing about this when I was a kid, and so I'm gonna say Glenn Milburn.
Glenn Milburn. Wow.
Wow, I haven't heard that name in forever. Glenn Milburn. Well, I'm looking through the list here, looking through all these amazing names and some names I've never heard of before. Glenn Milburn, not on this list. I'm going to go down a little bit, see if he pops up somewhere. He's not in the top 51. So I don't know what list you were looking at, but he's not on this one. Back to Todd Diamond.
Corey Dillon.
Corey Dillon. Yeah, we were talking about him in terms of his rushing ability. He had a big time rushing game against the Denver Broncos, and he is not, in the top 25. He is on the top 50 list. He's 30th. Tied with some guy's name. I'm not going to say his names because maybe they're on this list earlier, so I'm not going to give that to you. Back to Miguel.
Okay. I'm going to go with another one I remember from childhood. I'm going to go with Flipper Anderson.
Flipper Anderson.
Flipper friggin' it.
Do you remember what team he played for, Miguel?
The Rams.
The Rams. Correct. And you're also correct on the yards from scrimmage. In fact, he's number one. 336 yards from scrimmage against the New Orleans Saints in 1989. Well done, Miguel. You picked the number one. I didn't know if you guys were going to get that. Well done. Back to you, Todd. Trying to gain a point here.
Marshall Falk.
Ooh, that's always a really good guess. Looking through the list here, and you are correct, sir. Well done. He is tied for 22nd. He had 286 yards from scrimmage when they were the St. Louis Rams against the Falcons on October 15th, 2000. You guys are tied 1-1. Back to Mikey Renault.
All right, let's go Adrian Peterson.
Adrian Peterson. So smart, Miguel. He is fourth all time, 315 yards from scrimmage against the Chargers in 2007. Todd, try to tie things up here.
Jamal Lewis.
Jamal Lewis. You talking about the running back from the Ravens?
Correct.
That is correct. Well done, sir. 295 yards against Cleveland on September 14th, 2003. You guys are picking up the pace here. Back to Mikey Renault.
Okay, I'm going to go, because I think he did it against the Cowboys a couple years ago. He was close to Flipper Anderson's record. I'm going to go with Calvin Johnson.
Calvin Johnson, a wide receiver on the list. Correct, and you're right, it is against the Cowboys. 329. There is a asterisk next to his name. I'm interested to see what that asterisk is.
Maybe it was overtime?
Indicates Hall of Famer. Okay,
Oh,
that's what that means.
Okay.
So, well done. Mikey takes a 3-2 lead. Todd, got to get a tie point here. Give me a name. Pressure's on.
Jerry Rice has got to be somewhere on there. I'll say Jerry Rice.
Well done. Jerry Rice. 13th. He's a Hall of Famer, of course. He did it against the Vikings on December 18th, 1995. As a 49er, 299 yards from scrimmage. Mikey, a chance for you to win MHA trivia once again with the correct answer here.
Okay, I'm going to go with a dual threat guy and somebody that was on one of my previous fantasy teams. I'm going to go with Priest Holmes.
Ooh,
Priest Holmes. And Mikey wins MHA trivia. Priest Holmes, 307 yards from scrimmage. Did so against the Seahawks on November 4th, 2002. I'll go through some of these names real quick. Billy Cannon had 330 yards from scrimmage back in 1961. Stephon Page, Kansas City wide receiver. Antonio Brown. You had Josh Jacobs just a couple years ago. Of course, he didn't do it on my team. Jim Benton, who was a Ram and did against the Lions in 1945. Of course, Saquon Barkley's there. A gentleman by the name of Cloyce Box, who did it in 1950 for the Lions. Julio Jones, Le'Veon Bell. Jerome Harrison, kind of a random name there. He had 298 yards against the Chiefs in 2009. Herschel Walker, you remember those as a Dallas Cowboy. Jimmy Smith, we always talk about is he Hall of Fame worthy. He had 291 yards from scrimmage against the Ravens as a Jacksonville Jaguar in 2000. Jim Brown, about Terrell Owens. John Taylor, San Francisco 49er, wide receiver next to Jerry Rice. Chris Johnson, for those who remember the speedster running back from Tennessee back in 2009. And then Walter Payton rounds things out. Did so against the Vikings in 1977. So where you go? There goes. Well done, gentlemen.
Cloyce Box. I learned something new.
There you go. That's what we're trying to do. Cloyce Box. All right. Got to get back to... Let's get to some news. As I get back to my screen.
I don't understand what the news is. It's just like, hey, here's a bunch of you can't fix that happened that was horrible.
Well, as we're doing this on a Wednesday, there's quite a bit of news here, so I'm going to run through these, and if you guys want to say anything, or if I miss something, let me know. How about Daniel Jones with a new team? He is with the Minnesota Vikings, was signed today. The Vikings have to pay him like $380,000 or whatever it is, while the Giants still pay him his previous money, but he's with a new team. Not going to play unless something happens to Sam Darnold, but there's worse backups out there. Darnell Mooney, limited in practice. He's dealing with an Achilles injury. Amari Cooper for the Bills. He was a full participant. He's been dealing with a wrist thing. Joe Burrow, practicing full for Kilgore Trout. Of course he is. Jake Ferguson, already ruled out for this weekend. Tamales running back, David Montgomery, hurt his shoulder and is questionable for Thanksgiving. Mikey, do you have to use him at all this week?
We'll see.
We'll see. Okay.
Probably not, but, we'll see.
Lucky for you. Lemonheads wide receiver Amon-Ra St. Brown, likely to play tomorrow despite dealing with a knee issue. Another Lemonheads wide receiver Josh Downs, he did not practice today and may not play this weekend. But Lion Rips, Colts wide receiver Michael Pittman was a full go, so he should be ready to go. Another Lemonhead, Tank Bigsby, who missed the last few weeks with an ankle injury, was back at practice and did so fully. Chiefs running back Isaiah Pacheco, along with Kareem Hunt, were full participants in Wednesday's practice. Pacheco hasn't played since week 2, and he was pretty incredible those first 2 games. So he could be ready to go for NWA against me. So that's not great, or a little scary for me, but we'll see. He may also have him on a pitch count. Gardner Minshew out for the season. That's putting Aiden O'Connell in the starter's role. Neat. Aiden O'Connell back. That was a poor Vegas team. Not good. J.K. Dobbins, one of Mikey's guys, may miss the next few weeks with a knee sprain. Brees Hall did not partake in practice today, but the coaching staff feels confident he will play. Brock Purdy, Todd's guy, dealing with a right shoulder issue, did not play last week, was limited on Wednesday. Both DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett did not get in a single rep in practice today. And Austin Eckler, he also did not practice today. Did I miss anything, gentlemen? Anything from your team that you guys want to talk about that's worrisome?
Yeah.
All right. Sounds good. Week 12 recap. Let's get into it. Bye apocalypse. We mentioned it last week. 6 big teams on bye weeks this week. Let's start with the matchup of the week and possible MHA Super Bowl preview. 9-2 Notorious CUP, 9-2 Kilgore Trout. The two best teams in the MHA. CUP had all 9 of his players reach 10 or more points, including a massive 18 points from Trey McBride. He's been coming on of late. That was a season high for the Cardinals tight end. How about scary Terry McLaurin? Looked like he was going to have kind of a quiet day, but then boom, had that very late kind of Hail Mary touchdown catch. He ended up with 16. So while CUP's team was hitting on every player, the only player that may have cost him was Kyler Murray. He only had 34 points. Kilgore Trout's quarterback, Caleb Williams. Man, when things are going well for you on the season, they are going well. His quarterback's on a bye, but Caleb Williams comes in and explodes for a season-high 62 points, and this is coming off 4 straight trash weeks. Joe's squad didn't have Joe Burrow, as we mentioned, but Williams did not miss a step. Kilgore also didn't have T. Higgins, but that didn't seem to matter. Cortland Sutton had his best day of 2024. He had 24 points. Sometimes you just have to wonder if this is Joe's year. Everything's going his way. Kilgore Trout now sits alone at the top of the MHA standings at 10-2. Notorious CUP falls in this matchup 174-144. Lots of points in that one. Falls to third in the standings, and that's because the Hot Tamales, they moved up to number 2 after defeating Cooper's Cousins 164-132. Thank you, Miguel. Saquon Barkley, we mentioned it, could be the MVP of the league. 43 outstanding points for the Eagles running back. And how about Josh Jacobs, who almost outscored his fellow Packer quarterback, Jordan Love? Jacobs had 3 touchdowns and 28 points. And while Derrick Henry, just a mere day at 14 points. Dylan's squad didn't have a bad day, 21 points from a last-second move. He took out Keenan Allen for DJ Moore. Allen wasn't bad, but DJ Moore, 21 points. And they got 19 from Devin Achane, who had 2 receiving touchdowns. But the combo of Tank Dell and Marvin Harrison Jr. Was a big letdown, just 11 points. Hot Tamales now up 9-3, 1 game back of number 1 Kilgore Trout. Cooper's Cousins falls to 6-6 in a messy middle of the standings. We'll talk about that. Eaton W's got a huge win over the NWA. Thanks, Kevin. As Kevin's squad squeaked by with a 124-123 victory. How about a candidate for move of the weekend, having to start a Raiders running back? Amir Abdullah mustered up 15 points. And Houston's defense had a field day against Will Levis, who was sacked 8 times, while the Texans added a defensive touchdown for 24 points. Kevin also started Matt Stafford over C.J. Stroud, and a very late touchdown by the Rams quarterback gave him 47 points, and it proved to be huge. Obviously, after hearing the score, the NWA got another good day from always reliable George Kittle, who scored 16, and Jacoby Myers had a surprising 16 against the usually stout Broncos defense. It came down to Monday night where Eaton W's had a 117-80 lead, and he had Justin Tucker, with NWA having the potential NFL MVP and Lamar Jackson waiting in tow. Tucker had a mere 7 points, while Lamar Jackson kind of had a pedestrian 42 points for his usual type of day. Eaton W's improves to 8-4, while the MWA falls to 6-6. The NWA loss benefits the Lemonheads in a big way, as the Lemonheads look to stay in the race with a win over the Belt Sanders. These two teams' quarterbacks were incredible. Tua Tagovailoa finished with 65 points. Patrick Mahomes, he finished with 61. The rest of the Belt Sanders, not so much. No one else had more than 9 points, which included 2 from San Francisco's defense, 3 from Ramondre Stevenson, and only 2 from Deebo Samuel. The Lemonheads, however, got great days from rookie running back Bucky Irving, who piled up 23 points, while the Dolphin tight end Jonnu Smith had yet another spectacular week, tallying 19. Eric's squad has put themselves right back in the playoff race by defeating Allen's team 155-105. Lemonheads now at 5-7. The Belt Sanders falls to 2-10. The Butterfingers somehow avoid elimination after taking down the Chad Powers fan club 130-111. With Brock Purdy not playing this weekend, Todd's only option was Jane Daniels, so he couldn't screw that up. And that perhaps kept the Butterfingers with a pulse for those playoffs. Daniels had yet another late touchdown to help raise that point total to 59. Todd's boy, Aaron Jones, rewarded him for that trade last week, scoring 18 points against the Bears defense. Chad Powers had his best day since week 6, scoring 17 points from Rashad White, who reached double figures. Todd had 116 to 69 lead heading into the Monday night affair. The Butterfingers had Justice Hill, while Miles' squad had Justin Herbert and Baltimore's defense. Herbert was just average at 38 points, but his team's offense was able to put up 23 points, pushing that Ravens total to just 4 points. Justice Hill had a long touchdown run to secure the win, improving the Butterfingers a record to 4-8, with Chad Powers falling to 4-8. That allows Butterfingers to jump Chad Powers in the standings to 9th place. And also still in the mix for that MHA postseason is Lion Rip, who played the right opponent in Week 12, defeating the Gonzo Cats 117-95. Pollen's team didn't have Josh Allen or Drake London, who were on byes, and also didn't have Devontae Smith, who was injured, but his team did get a season-high 22 from Jordan Addison, who has come on strong late in the last 3 or 4 weeks, and Jalen Warren comes off his bench to reach 14, but the Josh Allen replacement, Anthony Richardson, didn't prove to be helpful, just 23 from the Colts QB. Jalen Hurts was less than stellar with his 32 points. For Lion Rip, and Justin Jefferson had his worst week of the season, recording just 3 points. But Puka Nacua caught 9 passes towards 14 points. And recent acquisition of Jahmyr Gibbs was excellent, 24 points. Lion Rip in the middle of the group at 6-6. Gonzo Cats at 3-8. I'm going to go back to Mikey. We'll go back to both of you guys in your matchups. So, Mikey, there was moments on Sunday where you were concerned. You had to run Drake, or you ran Drake May. Obviously, not a guy you would prefer to be playing. He had a couple of great performances, but didn't have a great one this weekend. You were concerned, but then, of course, your 3-headed monster running back came back and helped you out. Give us some of your thoughts on your team's performance here in Week 12.
Yeah, it's just so hard, especially when
so hard to have such great players.
All three running all 3 running backs. So, Jacobs was an afternoon game, Barkley was the night game, and then Henry was the Monday night game. So, like, having all 3 of those at the back end, like, just watching the flow of the game, like, it wasn't looking good early, obviously. Drake May, did fine, but yeah, I mean, those, what can you say about Saquon Barkley at this point? Like, those are quarterback type numbers. Just amazing. And then Josh Jacobs, the way that game kind of went, where Green Bay blew them out, it was just the Jacobs show, 3 rushing touchdowns, which really hurt Dylan because, it was taking away from Jordan Love. It just worked out in my favor. 164, another big point total for me, clinches that spot. I'm right behind, Joe, and I'm just hoping at this point, to win out and get that bye.
Well, you're right there on the doorstep. 2 weeks left to go. Todd, looking at your matchup, somehow you're still going. You still got some breath left in that lungs. Jaden Daniels, you couldn't mess that up this week.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. This was, there wasn't, obviously if you're going to have a, not having Brock Purdy, who's, hasn't been as great this season as he was last year, but Jaden Daniels, he's been 10 times better than what Brock Purdy's been, this season. And yeah, couldn't screw it up, especially against, the matchup was great against Dallas. Dallas is, who knows, they're going in the wrong direction, but I couldn't screw it up. And, I put my lineup in, and, Jaden Daniels, when he threw that long touchdown pass to McLaurin, that 86-yard touchdown, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing.
You saw Todd's face, because he saw it on his phone before we saw it on TV. And he just looks up at us with this like just stunned, unbelievable look in his face. I can still see it now. He was so just flabbergasted on what just took place. It was amazing.
Yeah, it's like, Daniels was that, like, I think maybe 30 some or 40 some points. I was like, okay, that's great. Cause again, going into this matchup, obviously, I have nothing really to lose, cause it's kind of do or die. So you really just, you just put your lineup in and you hope for the best. And, Jaden Daniels was a big part of that. And then, I was a little nervous going into the Monday night game. I thought, I mean, I was really like, okay, whatever happens, happens. If I get eliminated, I get eliminated. It's, it's what it is. That's fantasy football. But Herbert wasn't doing as well, like you said, and obviously, if Herbert scored a touchdown, that would hurt his defense, and so forth. So it kind of canceled each other out. But when Justice Hill ran for that long touchdown, I'm like, oh my god, I'm alive! I'm alive! I have a pulse. To quote George Costanza, Jerry, I think it moved. I think it moved.
Yikes.
And better
You
believe
were
it
never
did.
allowed at my house ever again. Sick bastard.
But I mean, it's amazing. But that's fantasy football for you. You never know what's going to happen. And that long touchdown run by Hill helped out a lot. So I have a pulse. Again, I don't know how big of a pulse it is, but it's there. And obviously, we'll talk about it going in the matchups for next week. But yes, I'm in another elimination type game, and we'll see what happens. And not having Kamara, that's going to help me going into next week a little bit. I don't have to play Justice Hill, but yeah, it was great. Seeing I mean, obviously the alerts on my phone. I haven't seen a lot of those. In a few weeks, so that was kind of nice just to see that, even though we were watching the game, all together. But yeah, it's kind of nice seeing those alerts. Like, oh, that's what a touchdown feels like. Awesome, that's great. That's awesome. So excited. So I'm still alive, and we'll see what next week has to offer.
Yeah, I'll quickly say that, for me going into last week, my decision was between playing Tua and Jonnu Smith or Jared Goff and Kate Otten. All the experts said go with Goff and Otten based on their matchups. I couldn't pull that trigger. Tua was playing really well. Jonnu Smith, obviously, in his connection, and it proved to be huge. I mean, between the Tua and Jonnu Smith, it was 84 points. If I would have played Goff and Kate Otten, it would have been 39. And so I still would have won against Allen, but the points are so huge, especially when we're in the middle of this crazy standings, as we'll go and look through these standings here at the moment, because points is what's going to matter. Points decides if there's a tiebreaker. So you have Kilgore Trout, who's 10-2. He's got 1,805 points. Tamales 9-3. They're at 1,769. So I mean, that's Joe with that kind of that tiebreaker ahead for the moment. Of course, that obviously can change if Saquon Barkley keeps doing what he's doing. But Kilgore's got a great team. Then you talk about CUP. All three of these teams in the same division, by the way. They're at 9-3, but they're significantly lower in terms of points, just 1,580. All right, then you get to Eaton W's, who's probably going to secure that 4th spot at the very least. He's 8-4. He's got a little over 1,600 points, and then it gets crazy after that. Right now, in the 5th spot is NWA, who's 6-6. They have 1,610 points. Behind him is Cooper's Cousins. They're 6-6, 1,488. So NWA with a big point advantage there. Then it goes to Lion Rip, who's also 6-6. He's got less than Cooper's Cousins at 1,444. And then there's me, who's at 5-7, so I'm a 1 game back, but I have 1,584 points. So not quite up to NWA, but I'm better than Cooper's Cousin and Lion Rip, and I play NWA next week, so that is a huge matchup. Then you go to Butterfingers behind me at 4-8. He's at 1,495. And then after that is Chad Powers Fan Club, and then the next two, who's at 4-8, I should say. And then after that, the 2 eliminated teams. So the standings, there they are. We'll talk about the matchups here in just a moment. But as of this moment, as I scroll down my list here, Mikey, in terms of dough of the week, I really didn't see any. I mean, you can always go to the very slim margin game between Eaton W's and NWA that ended up being less than a point. But there was no one I really saw on NWA's team that that's the mistake, right?
Yeah, I mean, you weren't going to play Calvin Ridley over Tyreek Hill or DK Metcalf. I think that would have been
silly, right?
Yeah, it would have been silly.
I mean, Ridley's been good of late, but I still wouldn't play him over those 2 guys. And you're like, well, maybe play him over Jacoby Myers, but Jacoby Myers at 16 points.
Yeah.
So no dough of the week. Well done, owners. Well, I mean, there was a lot of
It's just too
blowouts.
bad because Kevin deserved it, but he managed
Yeah,
to
he did.
escape and
Oh
didn't
my
get it.
gosh, that would have been the dough of the year. I'd have bought the trophy and sent it to him. 21 points from good old Waddle on his bench. Luckily, Lamar Jackson couldn't get one extra throw or rushing 10 yard, or I guess whatever yard now with the fractional scoring. But oh man, crazy, crazy, crazy. All right, back to it. And so after the dough of the week, we go to the studs.
The cream of the crop. Nobody does it better.
Well, Mikey, do you want to talk about Saquon or you want to go somewhere else?
I mean, we've talked about Saquon so much already.
He's the top guy. He's the best. He's amazing.
Yeah.
He's studs of all studs.
So
He's the stud. He's the stud of the year.
yeah, so that because of that, I'm going to go to Josh Jacobs. I mean, when we were watching the games, you were talking about how much you hated him last year.
Hey,
He wasn't that great. 28 points this week. He's had only one game this year where he's been under double figures. The opportunity's there. He's just going to get the carries. Like he hadn't had like a really big touchdown week up until this week, but he's just been solid. Like it's hard for me to ever take him out of the lineup because I know that he's going to get the carries no matter what. And so, he's just super consistent and it fits so well in my flex. And yeah, I mean, you may hate him, but I'm glad to have him.
it's the same thing with Saquon. I've had Saquon, I think, a couple times, and he's never done what he's doing. He's always hurt and disappears. He has the game once in a while. And same thing with Josh Jacobs. 2 years ago, he was the NFL leader in rushing, and then absolutely just dog shit that type of season last year. And now he's having another stellar season. Let me ask you this, Miguel. Quick MHA trivia. Who's got more fantasy points, Josh Jacobs or David Montgomery?
It might be Montgomery based on the fact that Montgomery probably has more touchdowns than Jacobs, but I'll say Jacobs does.
You're correct. It's only by 2 points, though. And I only say that because, another great running back on your team. Montgomery, 170 points. Yeah, he's got 11 touchdowns. But Josh Jacobs with his 944 yards rushing, and he's got 8 touchdowns. So, Todd, give me a stud from week 12.
I'll go stud off of your team, Bucky Irvin from
right?
Tampa. I mean, obviously, like I said, rookie, and I think we talked about in the rookie podcast. I said I wasn't very high on any of these rookie running backs. I just didn't think, really that there wasn't any impact, rookie running backs. But Bucky Irvin, 23 points, and then last week 17. I mean, he's kind of been up and down, but 23 points in the right week. I mean, granted, the matchup was great for you because it was against the Giants, which I don't think play football anymore. So that was really good for you. But especially in that offense and how much they throw. I mean, Bucky Irvin did really well. So good on you on that one.
I think with Rachaad White and his big thing, I think he was a top 5 running back last year, but a lot of it was volume more than it was efficiency. He wasn't a guy with a high yards per carry type of average. He caught some passes, which kind of bulked up his fantasy points, which is what you want. Honestly, you want a guy that could be able to catch passes too, but you just knew that he wasn't going to get it done at the goal line. He's not a guy that's going to run for more than 100 yards regularly because he's just not that type of running back. And just what I saw in his college video and Bucky Irving and what he was able to do, I drafted him and had to keep him on my bench because Rachaad White was getting all the carries. But I figured at some point he was going to overtake him, and he has. He has 5 double-digit point totals this year, and he was phenomenal. He had like 4 or 5 catches in the first quarter alone, and they utilized him a ton. Yes, it's Carolina, but he's been pretty productive for most of the season. Another stud, I have to talk about Jahmyr Gibbs, who picked up his third 20-point game of the season. Big time for Lion Rip because a lot of his team did not come through this past week, but Gibbs, a guy he traded for, he's trying to get better. He's trying to get into that playoff race, and if he didn't have him, then he may have lost to Gonzo Cats this week. And so to be able to make that move, it pans out. That's a good feeling. He's still in the mix for the playoff race. Jahmyr Gibbs. Luckily, it didn't come back to hurt Todd, who traded him away. But Jahmyr Gibbs, he's a stud. He's one of the top running backs in the NFL. He is fourth amongst all running backs in terms of points. So Jahmyr Gibbs. Mikey, who else stood out to you on the studs end?
So I'm going to give it to somebody who, for years, we were consistently placing in the duds. But Cortland Sutton.
T.Y. Hilton? Oh, okay.
No, Cortland Sutton.
Yeah.
Last 5 weeks has been on an absolute tear.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it goes to show you what a better quarterback situation can do for a player. And Sutton was somebody that I actually drafted, and he was terrible the first 2 weeks. I probably dropped him too soon. Yeah, because he could have been helping me now with the kind of he's 8 targets or more in each of the last 5. He's been incredible to where he's playable every week now for Joe. So yeah, Cortland Sutton, that's my second stud.
You don't really need more help, Miguel, but but I see what you're saying. But yeah, Cortland Sutton's 9th. I didn't realize he was that high. He is 9th. 57 receptions, 744 yards, and 5 TDs. Cortland Sutton, ladies and gentlemen. My Todd, do you have another stud from this past week?
Yes, Tony Pollard for Tennessee. I wasn't really big on him because I thought Spears for Tennessee was going to be the better back, but Tony Pollard. Yeah, I mean, hey, when I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I wear that proud.
No, that's okay. But, I'm not blaming you for being wrong. I mean, I was kind of high on Spears too, and Spears has been hurt and hasn't done much at all this season. But go ahead.
Yeah, you're good. 21 points. I mean, rushed for 119 yards and 1 touchdown. I mean that Tennessee team. I think they have to figure out their quarterback situation if Will Levis is a guy. But Tony Pollard, coming from Dallas and kind of being the guy now in Tennessee, definitely. I would say definitely an interesting. This is going a little bit farther for next year for next year's fantasy football season. But Tony Pollard could definitely won't be like a sleeper anymore. May be like in that top, maybe 20, but we'll get that, in the off season. But Tony Pollard definitely a stud this week.
Yeah, he was someone that I thought could have a good season this year. I thought a lot of people were kind of throwing him to the side after a tough year with Dallas last year, and he's really stepped up. I know it's someone that Joe really liked, and he ended up drafting him kind of late because he went other directions earlier in the draft. And 21 points, 119 rushing yards, and a rushing TD with 3 receptions. And boy, Kilgore Trout on the verge of trying to get that number 1 seed. Last one I'll mention is, and we'll go right back to Kilgore Trout. I'm stunned that Caleb Williams busted out for 62 points after 39, 22, 31, and 19. And he had 59 way back in week 6 against Jacksonville. Minnesota's not the greatest defense, but for Joe to be able to, I mean, he's had Caleb Williams on his team, so it's not like he picked him up recently, but he had his quarterback on Joe Burrow on a bye. He brings him in. Maybe this is a chance for CUP to take the victory, but no, instead, 62 points. Come on, man. Come on. When it's your year, I guess it's your year. I mean, I know Mikey's right there. I'm not taking anything away from Mikey, but I don't know if it's luck or if it's clandestiny, whatever you want to call it, but good for him.
Yeah, because the fact, because he lost in the championship game last year, and he's like, you know what? I'm going to come out with a vengeance. That's a chip on his shoulder. Just saying.
It's always with the chip on the shoulder.
Yeah, that potato chip. Got to get that chip,
Don't call it a potato chip.
Okay, well, it just sounds funny if you call it a potato chip.
I guess so. All right. Well, how about we get to the dubs?
This is the worst. You are the worst. I hate looking at your face. I want to smash it.
Todd, we'll let you go first this week. Who stunk it up in week 12?
Let's go with Dalton Schultz for the
Still talking about
Texans.
that, dude?
I
Hasn't he
guess.
stunk for a long time by now?
Yeah, but I mean, he really stunk. He really stunk this week. 3 points. Yeesh. I mean, I know we said tight ends have been just straight garbage this year. I mean, I could have been Quentin Johnston, but he's Calvin Johnson, so I can't. Even got 0 points. But yeah, especially in that because we were talking about in the offseason how you know how much that Texans offense, how good like we were propping that offense up like on a pedestal, like oh look at all these weapons and CJ Stroud taking that next step and how many points they're going to put up. And Dalton Schultz has been kind of lost in the, in the fray. Now I thought, okay, now with Stephon Diggs gone, like, okay, this is maybe Dalton Schultz will get more involved. They'll get him more involved. Not going to happen. About three. I said it would have been funnier if it was 350. That would have been funnier. But yeah, only 3 points. Not good.
He hasn't been good at all. Yeah, he hasn't had a double-digit total all season long. He's been bad. I would argue that Quentin Johnson was probably worst for someone to have a big fat goose egg in a night that they needed a win, and Ravens have been giving up a ton of yards this season. I thought that was quite unfortunate, and I understand that he didn't have Devontae Smith or Drake London, and so at this point you're just grasping for whoever is out there on the free agent wire, and he's had a couple of double-digit point totals in the last 5 weeks, but man, a 0 when you're trying to avoid elimination, but unfortunately did not work out. Mikey, who just crapped themselves last week.
Well, lastly, the one thing I want to say about Dalton Schultz is the reason that I didn't have him on my dud list is because my expectation is for him to suck. So
Right.
he didn't really disappoint me.
Yeah.
He just sucks. Just sucks.
So my guy was on my dud list last week, and he made it again. And that's Jordan Love.
Yeah.
Once again, I talked about his struggles after having, played so well last year. And again, 13 completions. That's consecutive weeks. And in 3 of the last 4 weeks, 14 completions, 13 completions, 13 completions. That's not something that I expect out of somebody like Jordan Love. Maybe like Anthony Richardson, but not Jordan Love. I mean, his inaccuracy and inefficiency with completion percentage is hurting him right now. And this is now basically 4 weeks in a row where he's 35 and below, and that does not cut it for a starting quarterback.
Doesn't cut it.
Doesn't cut it.
It's all your boy Josh Jacobs' fault. He's running all these touchdowns all the time.
Could be.
But yeah, for sure. And in that matchup that he had, I mean, Detroit's fairly we're past that. So he had San Francisco, Chicago, the bye, Detroit, and even Jacksonville. He had 19, struggling, and I hope those struggles continue as I'm playing. Nope, because I need them to lose this week, and so they play Miami on Thursday nights. We'll find out quick how well he does if he rolls with him. His backup is Geno Smith against the Jets, so which could also be a very difficult matchup going there. Todd, did you have another dud?
Let's see, what was my other dad? I was gonna go with Ramon Stevenson.
Yeah, Ramondre Stevenson.
Ramondre Stevenson for the Patriots. Only 3 points, and he's been fairly consistent. Because obviously with a rookie quarterback, you kind of want to get that running game going. But after having 12 points last week, but only 3 points this week against Miami, not good. I mean, he's had he has a 12-point game, 20-point game, 22-point game. So he's kind of been in the middle. So not a good week for him.
I would add to that Miami's defense has given up double figures to 11 different players this year. 11. Now, the thing that hurt them was game script, right? Because the Dolphins went bananas. Thank you, Mr. Tua and Jonnu Smith. So they didn't have a chance because, so it's Antonio Gibson who probably got more of the run. because Stevenson's not going to catch a ton of passes. I don't know. He used to catch a ton of passes, but not much anymore. I'm going to go back to someone I've already mentioned a couple times as duds, and that's good old Marvin Harrison Jr. That's right, suckers. 5 points, 3 receptions. The Cardinals team managed a total of 6 points. We talked about Trey McBride having a great day, who had 12 receptions, but just 6 total points for the Cardinals. 3 receptions for Marvin Harrison Jr. Yeah, I was right about that one. Anybody else? Any other duds, or should we move on to the next week's schedule?
Well, I can give you one of mine, and he's been on
Sure.
my dud list before too. But just given what a great day Tua had, like
Tyreek Hill.
Tyreek Hill, I mean,
Yeah.
it hurt NWA. I mean, this is your first round pick. You lost by less than a point, and your first round pick was just kind of meh. Like he didn't like really do anything. 7.4. Like, got to get more from him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I'll say DK Metcalf too. 6 points, 4 receptions. And that's another NWA guy. And he needed just 1 point, less than a point from either one of those guys to come out with a victory. And they both let him down.
yeah.
Sad, sad, sad. All right. Next week's schedule. I don't know why I did not finish this. I'll have to go to the website here. So, of course, it is week 13, and a lot of things are on the line here this week. Going through here, let's see, going through the number 1 team, 10-2, Kilgore Trout. Unfortunately, his win is not going to matter at all as they take on the Belt Sanders, just in terms of what that win may mean in the playoffs, other than him trying to secure that number 1 spot. If he wins, does he secure it? Well, there's still 2
No.
weeks. No, so
he
it's not
won't
official
secure-
yet.
He will secure a first round bye with a win.
There you go. Thank you, Miguel. Keep putting those out as I go through this list here. So the Hot Tamales in second place. They are 9-3, and we'll take on Gonzo Cats, who've been eliminated, but as Mikey mentioned, they're trying to secure a bye and perhaps steal the number 1 seed if things go right for him. Although he has got to make up a ton of points too, as well. The third team, Notorious CUP. This one's going to matter. They're 9-3. They're trying to secure a bye, and they'll take on 6-6 Lion Rip. They have a really tough schedule the last couple of weeks. And then you go over to Eaton W's, who's in 4th place. Looks like they have a chance as a bye if they can get some wins, if they get some losses from like the Tamales or CUP. But they're taking the Butterfingers. Mikey, if Eaton W's beats the Butterfingers next week, is Todd eliminated?
Yeah, Todd would be eliminated. Kevin would clinch a playoff spot. So
there you go. Big time matchup. A lot on the line for that one. So NWA, who's currently in the 5th spot, they're going to take on yours truly. Big matchup. As NWA 6-6 and I'm 5-7. And if I beat NWA and if I think, what am I down? Let's see, 1,610 to 1,584. So I'd have to beat them. What is that, by 20 some points to be able to flip them to jump over top? So a lot on the line for that one. Who is in the 6th spot? Cooper's Cousins, of course, another big matchup. They take on 4-8 Chad Powers Fan Club, who's not been eliminated yet. So this is a huge win for them if they can come up with that against Cooper's Cousins. And then what else do you have here? Did I get through everybody? I think I got through everybody. So there you have it. A lot on the line this week. That's exciting. Mikey, you take on the Gonzo Cast this week. There are no buys, by the way. So everybody's free and clear. But next week will be the Bye-Pocalypse Part 2 as there's 6 teams on bye. But this week, Miguel, you have Drake May in there currently. I don't know if that's what you're going to go for, but how are you feeling with your matchup?
Yeah, I kind of made my decision tonight.
Okay.
And I am sticking with Drake May.
All right.
This week. So
taking on the Colts for people that don't know.
Well, I am also playing the Colts defense to protect myself.
All right.
So yeah, I mean that's the plan. I'm trying to get a win here and stick on to at least that 2 seed. It's quite an interesting situation for you though, Eric. I mean, realistically, by the end of the week, you could find yourself in that last spot, depending on what happens. Your point total is good enough to where if you're beat NWA by enough points and Cooper's Cousins were to lose, you and Aaron if you both win, could find yourself in the 5 and 6 spot. Could be pretty interesting.
Yeah. So we'll just go over to my matchup, taking on the NWA. If he wants to roll with Pacheco, he's got Pacheco in his lineup already. The big thing for me is between Goff and Tua. They both play on Thursday, which is not my favorite, but there are 6 teams playing on that day. Goff, at home against Chicago. That could be a good matchup, I feel. Chicago, obviously, we saw what Caleb Williams done. If Caleb Williams could put up 62 points, that game should go back and forth. However, it also could be done by halftime, which is a little scary. And of course, you have those running backs. For me, maybe David Montgomery doesn't play, but Jahmyr Gibbs is just as amazing. So Tua's on the road against Green Bay. It's going to be cold. Miami flourishes when it's a little nicer than 30 degrees. It could be less than that since it's going to be a night game. But that scares me a little, even though Tua's been just phenomenal the last 2 weeks. But at the moment, I have Jared Goff in the lineup. I have, with no buys, I have my full lineup in there, other than Josh Downs, who may not play against New England. That's a good matchup, but I can't wait that long because my other guy is good old Jameson Williams. So I'm going to have to run it to Detroit. So a lot of Detroit on the line, including I have their defense as well. So we'll see how all that goes. But a little nervous this week, but we'll see how that Lamar Jackson versus Philly situation goes. Todd, how are you feeling about your matchup here this week against Eaton W's?
Yeah, I mean, I gotta put a lineup in and see what happens. I've had the same mindset I had last week, where, I put in the lineup that I think I feel comfortable with. Now I get Alvin Kamara back, so that helps a little bit because I was running with Aaron Jones and Justice Hill, so maybe I wasn't as confident as I was, last week than I am this week a little bit, but I have to make a decision with Rome Dunze if I want to play him um, or I picked up Marvin Mims. I picked up some other wide receivers because, Dunze just, I don't know. He just hasn't got a lot of points. Hasn't had any double-digit points since week 9. So I don't know if I really want to play him or if I want to play Wicks for.
You don't have Romeo Dobbs anymore?
I dropped him because yeah. So
what about the boy you traded for? You traded for Tillman.
But he's still in concussion protocol.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah. Oh, of course. I probably I don't know too. I'd have to think about that too because they're playing the Broncos on Monday night. So, I don't know.
Jacoby Myers did well against the Broncos.
Yeah, but it I mean, I would say I was
That's
just
the point I'm trying to make is that you traded for him, and he's got Pittsburgh, Denver, and Pittsburgh, and he had 1 point against Pittsburgh, and you traded away that magnificent running back for Tillman and Jones.
Man, gotta try something
new.
new. Try something new. So we'll see what I do, and then Darnell Mooney. Don't know. He's been limited, so we'll see. I mean, again, at this point now, what do I have to lose?
Just the season. That's all.
But I mean, I thought when I was like 2-8, I was like, well, that's just the season too. So, gotta just throw up some Hail Marys. That's all I got now is Hail Marys.
Hail Marys and turkey here this week.
Gobble gobble.
Anything else, gentlemen, or should we get out of here?
Hey, I just want to say this league is fantastic. I hope everybody has a great Thanksgiving.
Preach. It's going to be fun.
Amen to that.
Everybody's putting their lineups in no matter where they're ranked, and that's the one thing I can appreciate compared to some other leagues I'm in. So, well done, gentlemen. Happy Thanksgiving. Get your grub on. Get your football on. Should be a fun one. For Eric Lansing, Todd Diamond, and the marvelous Mikey Renault, we'll see you next time.